My House of Horrors Chapter 11 to 20. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. Chapter 11. How Do You Sleep at Night? Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. When He-san mentioned that his fainting had to do with mirror, Chen Ge's heart skipped a beat. He was instantly reminded of the game from the previous night and how the thing inside the mirror had been stopped from escaping by the doll. From the look of it, the creature still had not left, hiding the mirrors of the haunted house. Boss, is this a new thing just added to the haunted house? How come I've not heard of it before? Shu Wan also wandered over, pulling the gaze of the crowd along with her. Chen Ge was caught in an awkward position. He could not just confess that there was an actual ghost living inside the haunted house, could he? If he did that, the haunted house would be forced into closure, but more than that, he would be dragged to the mental hospital. I guess you can say that. It's related to the short video I uploaded last night, but I don't recommend playing this game without professional guidance. Chen Ge patted He-san lightly on his shoulder. If you do not take my advice, you might end up in the same state as this young man. Alright, who still wishes to visit the haunted house? Don't worry, there are bound to be accidents in a haunted house. That's what makes it interesting, yes. Interesting my backside, a man fainted. It's a haunted house visit, so why should we put our lives on the line in Terabang? He's right, I'll forget about my broken phone as long as you don't post any more weird-ass videos in the middle of the night. Ads by PubFuture. Thanks, but no thanks. As Chen Ge extended the invitation, the crowd stepped away from him in unison. He laughed awkwardly. Why are you all acting like that? My haunted house is really not that scary. November LBJNN. Bro, we have two forensic science students who deal with dead bodies every day here, one is in tears, and the other fainted. Now, you're telling us your haunted house is not scary. Who are you lying to? How can you lie without batting an eye? That's right, have some morals. The comments from the crowd stumped Chen Ge. Initially, when the haunted house was supposedly not scary, no one wanted to visit because, apparently, it was too boring. Now, when it was finally scary, it seemed to have overshot the effect he wanted. But you came from all over the country just to stand at the entrance and watch. Guts can be trained. An occasional scare here and there will be able to increase your heart rate, thus improving your blood circulation. Even if you give us money, we're not going into that place. And improve blood circulation some more, you might as well say your haunted house can cure cancer. The man who had his phone broken retorted before turning to leave. However, right then, a middle-aged uncle standing beside him suddenly raised his voice to say, "Boss, give me a ticket." His voice was firm, like he had come to this decision after much contemplation. FCK, there really are thrill seekers everywhere. Uncle, don't be rash. Other haunted houses take your money, but his haunted house takes your life. Uncle, you've impressed me with your courage. Go on, don't worry, you can leave your wife and your daughter with me. The uncle looked to be over 40, and his head was balding. He walked out from the crowd and gave Chen Ge $10. One ticket please. Ads by PubFuture. You're doing this alone. Even Chen Ge was impressed by this middle-aged man. He dared to do this after witnessing what had happened earlier in Terabang. After taking the money, Chen Ge gave the uncle his ticket. He was about to go through his introductions when the uncle took the ticket and walked off in the other direction from the haunted house's gate. Uncle, the door is right this way. I know. The uncle did not turn back and continued to walk to a rather photogenic spot. He pulled out his phone to mess with the camera angle until he managed to encapsulate most of the haunted house building in the frame. He snapped 2 pictures before posting them to his Facebook. The weather today is perfect for a day out. I personally recommend this Western Zhejiang City's House of Horrors. It scared the bejesus out of me when I visited the place, highly recommended. The crowd could not help but roll their eyes. All you did was stay at the entrance for about 20 minutes and purchase a ticket, you called it visiting the place. Before the crowd could say anything, the uncle already got likes and replies from his social circle. Shaoli from Human Resources responded, "Brother Zhang, you're scared of even the common rat but you dared to visit a haunted house today. My man, nice job. This means that the haunted house isn't that scary if old Zhang dares to visit it." Wicked grin, replied Wang Dayu. Dinner is served, come home soon. Old Ball and Chain's response was relatively off-topic. Precious daughter, Wang Jing, laughed. Lol, Dad, we're all very familiar with the type of courage you have, so stop with the hapless struggle. The balding uncle didn't mind the comments but replied with a mischievous smile, "Feel free to visit this place on your own. Since you all claim to be braver than I am, I'm sure none of you will be afraid to take up this challenge, right?" Ads by PubFuture. This series of actions had stunned the crowd. "Uncle, how cunning you are. To prove that you're not a scaredy cat, you're entrapping your very own wife and daughter." The man who had broken his phone stood beside the uncle and saw the whole process. Then, he rushed toward Chen Ge and demanded, "Give me a ticket as well." Chen Ge had no explanation to this development, but since he was operating a business, he could not say no to his customers. After passing the young man his ticket, he saw the young man operate his broken phone to snap a picture and upload it onto Instagram with the caption, "God, what did I do? I realize I'm easily scared. Who can come to hold my hands as we challenge this haunted house together in Terabang?" Reading through the many comments that appeared under his photo, the young man had a devilish smile on his face. "Give me one ticket too." "Me too, 50% off, you say? Then give me two." There was no visitor inside the haunted house, but the tickets in Chen Ge's hands quickly disappeared. In just a few minutes, about half the stack was gone. The crowd slowly dispersed, and Chen Ge started to happily count the day's earning. "Boss, the tickets we sold this morning are more than the total tickets we have sold in the whole month." Shu Wan squatted down beside Chen Ge, and the excitement in her eyes could not be suppressed. "We merely got lucky today. To make sure we have a constant stream of visitors, we have to improve on our content first." Chen Ge placed the cash inside his pocket and turned to head back inside the haunted house. It was then that he realized, his victims of the day, Gao Rushui and He-san, still hadn't left the scene. "Are you two feeling any better?" Chen Ge walked toward them with an offering of mineral water. After all, they were crucial to him having such good sales that day. "Yes, thank you, and sorry for the trouble," He-san, who sat on the steps, uttered awkwardly. Beside him, the color still had not returned to Gao Rushui's face yet. Her gaze wandered between Chen Ge and Shu Wan before she said, "I have two questions I want to ask, may I?" "Sure." Chen Ge nodded readily. "Number 1, inside the West House, I swore I saw this girl's face in the mirror, so how could she suddenly appear behind me?" Gao Rushui intended to get to the bottom of the truth. She had a hard time coming to terms with that fact that she had been so scared that she cried. "You think that's a normal mirror, but it's actually not. It's actually a triangular pillar with mirrors on each side, but the two other sides are normally hidden behind the wall. It can be moved with a slight push. The exit to the Minghan scenario is actually behind the mirror. Regarding the woman you saw in the mirror, it was merely a picture that was pasted at particular angle. Using lighting effects, the other mirror, and optical illusions, it creates the illusion that you're looking at a real person. Xiao Wan was actually hiding behind the mirror. The sound of footsteps you heard was merely a sound effect." Gao Rushui nodded after listening to Chen Ge's explanation. "All right, the second question." She pointed at Shu Wan. "This lady is obviously alive, but how come, looking at her, I have this feeling that I'm looking at a dead body?" Chapter 12. Wheel of Misfortune. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. Due to her field of study, the time Gao Rushui spent in the company of dead bodies was far greater than the time she spent around living human beings. She was not good at social events, but that did not bother her much because she felt more comfortable in the presence of dead bodies after all. Our haunted house employs a special makeup technique, and that, combined with the unique environment of the haunted house, creates nothing more than an illusion in your mind. The mortician's makeup as well as Black Friday were something that he could not attempt to explain even if he tried to. Therefore, he answered the question broadly and quickly moved the conservation away. "If there are no more questions, I'll need to get back to work. Thank you for visiting us today." After saying goodbye to the two students, Chen Ge ordered Shu Wan to go clear up the props in the Minghan scenario while he returned to the main control room alone. What really happened to He-san was known to Chen Ge alone. The creature in the mirror hadn't left and was still hiding inside the haunted house. Letting it stay will only create more problems for me in the future. This was his first time dealing with a nightmare mission, so he had not expected that it would have such complicated repercussions. After turning off the background music, Chen Ge pulled out the surveillance camera to focus on the few minutes after He-san entered the West House. After flipping through the videos captured from multiple angles, he soon discovered something. It was at 24 minutes and 11 seconds past 9 o'clock that He-san ran into the West House. He was running about like a headless chicken. At 24 minutes and 14 seconds, when his eyes fell on the bronze mirror, a very curious image appeared on screen. The originally frantic Seinen became suspiciously calm after he saw the mirror. He stood before the mirror completely immobile. Chen Ge would have thought the video had stopped if not for the ticking time frame on screen. At 24 minutes and 17 seconds, Seinen suddenly raised his left hand and started to walk slowly toward the mirror. It looked like someone or something was dragging him toward the mirror. At 24 minutes and 20 seconds, Shu Wan, wearing a wedding dress, ran into the room from the open door. By then, Sen's upper body was almost touching the mirror, and there was a flash of something in the mirror that was captured by the camera. Right after that, Sen fainted to the ground. It was Xiao Wan's arrival that interrupted the creature's plan. Chen Ge played the video on loop. Plenty of stuff happened in those 10 seconds. He rubbed his temples, but he could not come up with a good solution. Ads by PubFuture. Until I can come up with a more permanent solution, it looks like the only thing I can do now is cover up all the mirrors in this haunted house. Chen Ge wandered back to the props room to grab several black clothes before returning to the Minghan set. Boss, why are you here? Just leave the cleaning up to me. Shu Wan saw Chen Ge while she was picking up the paper mannequins and paper money to put them back into coffin. I came to inform you of something. Temporarily, stop using all the props and scares related to mirrors in the haunted house. Also, when you're working, make sure to stay away from mirrors. Chen Ge carried the black cloth as he helped Shu Wan close the fake coffin. Shu Wan was baffled by Chen Ge's orders, but she didn't ask. After fixing all the props in the main house, Chen Ge entered the west house alone. The white lantern cast its weak light into the room. He stood at the spot where Sen fainted and stared quietly at the bronze mirror. Someone lives inside the mirror. Could there really be another world inside the mirror? Chen Ge touched the icy surface of the glass and stared at his own reflection for a long time. He could not pinpoint it, but he felt like something was off. When I handed Sen the bottle of water earlier, he used his right hand to take it, which means that he's not left-handed. However, in the video, he raised his left hand. Why would he do something that is opposite of his usual habit? Was he taken control of by the thing in the mirror? Chen Ge placed his left hand on the mirror, which aligned perfectly with his mirrored right hand. After all, everything is inverted inside the mirror. After covering the mirror with a black cloth, Chen Ge pulled out the black phone. This is where it all started. The creature appeared because of this phone. Therefore, it makes sense that if I wish to vanquish it, I'll need the help of this phone. He opened the app with the haunted house icon and soon noticed some changes to the interface. The daily visitor number and monthly visitor number had each increased by 2. Under the window for unlockable scenarios, a trial mission had just become available. After clicking on it, the message said that after finishing the mission, the scenario that it corresponded to would be unlocked. The design of this game seems fair enough. Completing a mission will earn me a reward, and the level of the reward directly corresponds to the difficulty of the mission. If I wish to expand this place further and deal with the thing inside the mirror, I'll need to continue finishing these missions. Ads by PubFuture. He could only do one daily mission each day, so Chen Ge's eyes naturally wandered toward the trial mission. Murder by midnight. A dangerous psychotic patient wandered about a fallen apartment. Scissors and mallets as hands, he is just wandering outside of your room. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. Mission venue. Western Countryside's Ping An Apartments. Mission requirement. Reach the mission venue before 2300 today. Look for the party responsible for the murder and survive until dawn. Mission hints. He hides among the crowd like a wolf among a group of sheep. His kind exterior hides a sickened heart. Do you wish to accept this mission? Warning. Trial missions are only available for 24 hours. If they are not accepted within these 24 hours, the scenario will never be unlocked. Chen Ge still had some reservations initially, but he decided to accept it after reading the last sentence. Let come what may, things are finally looking up for the haunted house. I can't give up on any opportunity that will make it better. After accepting the mission, he scrolled down. The haunted wheel of misfortune had been activated without him knowing. Chen Ge clicked on it out of curiosity, and a line of words appeared on screen. The decree of life and death is never the decision of man. Fortune and misfortune are only 1 inch apart. We have both spirit fruits to increase your lifespan as well as hatred-filled baleful specters. Activating the wheel after collecting the visitor's scream for the first time. You've been given a free spin for the first activation. A scream will be collected when it is over 70 decibels. After collecting 100 screams, they can be traded for a chance to spin the wheel of misfortune. 100 screams for one spin. Chen Ge frowned reading this detail. This wheel is horrible on so many levels. The condition for activating it is already so difficult, but the result is still randomized in Terabang. If the result is a baleful specter, then wouldn't it have been a complete waste? Chen Ge looked at the box that said he had one spin left, and he felt like pressing it. This feeling was similar to when one saw a message appear on one's phone. It might just have been an advertisement, but one felt compelled to open it. I mean, what can possibly go wrong? Chen Ge told himself, and as his finger tapped the screen lightly, the wheel started to turn. As long as it's not a baleful specter, I'm fine with anything. Chapter 13. Blessing or Curse. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. Chen Ge looked at the screen with superhuman focus. The wheel gradually slowed until the needle stopped at one of the results. Lucky spin completed. Congratulations for having won a rare special item. Cursed love letter, chance of winning, 3/1000. Her eyes exposed, cheeks white as ash, the moment she fell off the building, she became the taboo of the school. In red dancing shoes and a blood-dyed uniform, even her name became something that was only uttered in frantic whispers. People pretended that she didn't exist, until one day, someone started receiving her love letters again. Getting a baleful spirit on your first lucky spin, unlocked rare title, The Specters, Favored. The Specters, Favored. When you equip this title, there's a chance you might receive help from the specters. Looking at the information on screen, Chen Ge felt like his head was spinning. Cursed love letter. A 3/1000th chance of winning it. The specters, favored. Before resolving the matter with the creature in the mirror, now I'm blessed with another one in Terabang. I don't even know whether I should consider myself lucky or unlucky. He regretted cursing himself before activating the lucky spin. Chen Ge, get a grip of yourself. This is not the worst yet. Drawing a baleful specter doesn't mean it'll appear instantly. Perhaps there is still time to salvage this. Maybe I should go light an incense at the nearby temple. Ads by PubFuture. He pocketed his phone, and his fingers brushed up against something papery in his pocket. He lowered his head and was shocked to see a yellowed letter poking out of his pocket. With a bad feeling settling in his stomach, Chen Ge pulled out the letter carefully, and there was only a single, simple sentence written on it that was braided using hair. I like you. What the FCK? Please, tell me what you like about me, and I'll change from this moment on. The handwriting on the paper had a nice curve to it. It would look quite nice if not for the fact that it was braided from hair. Chen Ge stood in the West House, holding the letter in his hands. He mumbled to himself, who would have thought the first love letter I've ever received in my life would be something like this? Boss, what are you grumbling to yourself in here? Xiaowan came in from behind him after she was done fixing all the stuff in the main house. It's nothing, I'm just thinking. If someone knows his life will end soon, is it right for him to give up on materialistic pursuit to focus on leaving some good deeds in this world? Chen Ge raised his head to look at Xiaowan in dead man's makeup. For example, to do his best to help produce the human race's next generation. Chen Ge was obviously just rambling, but Xiaowan looked at him as if in deep thought, and her face turned serious with contemplation. Xiaowan, don't tell me you're thinking about saying yes. Thanks, but I'm not ready yet. Then again, we've worked with each other for a long time already, and we do make a great team. I guess if you insist, I suppose I wouldn't have said no. For some reason, Chen Ge felt weirdly nervous. No, boss, it's not that. I'm just curious how you managed to have two shadows following you. Xiaowan pointed behind Chen Ge. Is this some new thing you've invented? Two shadows in Terabang. Chen Ge whipped his head around and saw two shadows, one big and one small, encroaching upon him before finally melding into one. What the FCK? He yanked Xiaowan out of the haunted house immediately. Chen Ge finally relaxed when he felt the sun on his skin. He did not give Xiaowan any explanation as he collapsed onto the steps. Boss, you've been acting very out of sorts lately, is it because of the financial pressure? Xiaowan sat down beside Chen Ge. Don't worry, I'm sure everything will be fine. By the way, what do you want to have for lunch? I'll go buy something for you. Listening to Xiaowan's words of comfort, Chen Ge also did not know how to answer. He forced a smile and said, I'll just have the same as you, but before you go out, remember to remove your makeup, lest you scare the canteen workers. Understood. Ads by PubFuture. After Xiaowan left, Chen Ge pulled out the love letter again. I saw the two shadows joining together with my own eyes. If this is a sign that I've been haunted by the specter, does it mean that it's hiding in my shadow? Chen Ge looked at his shadow unblinkingly. With the specters, favored title, I have a chance to earn the aid from the specters, so in way, winning a baleful specter might not be as bad as I thought. At least that was what Chen Ge told himself on the surface. He knew internally, the reason a baleful specter was called a baleful specter was because they died with great anguish. They radiated sin and curses. If he was slightly careless, he might easily end up dead in a ditch somewhere. After lunch, Chen Ge stood in front of the haunted house, handing out flyers. There were quite a number of park visitors, but none wanted to enter the haunted house. Bored out of his mind, Chen Ge opened his video sharing app page and realized there had been a few new private messages. Deleting the trolls and advertisement, Chen Ge personally replied the remaining messages. Soon, he came across a message from Seinen. The honest-looking young man surreptitiously came to contact Chen Ge, telling him his school's forum had been exploding. After they found out that his haunted house had played such a big prank on the beauty of their course, many students had stated the desire to level the haunted house. Someone had started a thread to form the warring party, and it had more than a handful of volunteers already. It's nice to be young, Chen Ge commented with upturned lips. In his mind, however, there was already a vision of hormonal youths quivering in a group trapped inside his haunted house. No-vel-bjn.com. After completing the trial mission, I'll have them try it out to see how scary the one-star scenario really is. The thought of the trial mission made Chen Ge turn serious. He only had a one-time chance to complete this mission. If he failed, the chance of unlocking that scenario would forever be lost. He looked through the phone to memorize all the available information. Knowing one's enemy is winning half the battle. Therefore, the first thing Chen Ge did after confirming the mission venue was to look up everything he could about the place on the internet. Zhujiang City Western Countryside's Ping Apartments. Keying in the name of the location came up with nothing initially. After flipping through the front few pages, Chen Ge finally found something related to this apartment listed on a second-hand house sale website. It was a complaint saying that the seller had the intention of obscuring the truth. In reality, this apartment was a literal haunted house. After peeling off the fresh coat of paint, there were signs of dried blood, and every night, the apartment would be filled with the disgusting smell of decay. No one answered the complaint, and it was soon swamped by other more interesting threads. Chen Ge looked at the time of posting, and it was 9 months ago. Staying overnight at a haunted house and having to look for a hidden murderer. Sigh, this is a bit harder than I thought. Chen Ge had studied toy design. He was a complete amateur when it came investigation and self-defense. The hard part is not staying at the haunted house, but what if the murderer is just living next door to me and jumps at me at night in Terabang? Chapter 14. Missing Persons Notice. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Milman 97. At 4:30 p.m., Chen Ge stood alone in the haunted house's props room. He studied the room full of items as if deep in thought. What do you need to prepare to spend a night with a murderer? Identity card, phone, charger, lighter, penknife, multi-uses hammer. Right, mustn't forget this doll as well. Chen Ge shoved the doll that appeared before the mirror the previous night into his bag, and after confirming he had everything he needed, he pulled the zipper of the bag close and left the room. Xiao Wan, you can get off work early today. Remember to lock the door when you leave. I have something to attend to do, so I'll go first. Boss, it's only 5 p.m. Are you going on a trip or something? I've left the key on the table in the props room. See you tomorrow morning. Noticing Chen Ge's attempt at changing the subject, Xu Wan helplessly replied, okay. However, as Chen Ge turned around, the girl dropped the haunted house flyers and shot toward the props room in a trail of smoke. This girl. The evening wind ruffled the flyers that were left on the table. Chen Ge shook his head and picked up a pebble to place over them as he sighed. Hopefully she won't be seeing me on the morning news. Ads by PubFuture. Underneath his calm surface, Chen Ge's heart was a chaotic mess. The nightmare mission from the night before had opened a whole new world to him and made him realize there was a certain level of danger to the missions dispensed by the black phone. Trial mission has to be more difficult than daily mission. I have to be more careful tonight. Before the night fell, Chen Ge rode his bicycle to head toward Ping Apartments. The mission information only gave the name of the location. To locate the place, Chen Ge used Google Maps and the information from the online complaint released 9 months ago. Even so, he still exhausted 2 hours before he reached his destination. Are there even people who want to live a place that is so barren and isolated? The road leading to the apartment building was winding and overgrown with wild brushes. There was a noticeable lack of street lighting, and through the tree branches, Chen Ge could catch glimpses of a gray-colored building. On the way there, Chen Ge asked as many people as he could, but most of them hadn't heard of Ping'an Apartments. In the end, it was a senior who was about 60 years old that pointed him down the correct road and added a little friendly advice. He told Chen Ge that the place was haunted and cursed, so most would give it a wide berth even in daylight. Chen Ge did not know how to answer. If not for the sake of the Black Phone's mission, who would voluntarily go spend a night at a place like that in Terabang? It's now 6:50 p.m., and the mission states that I have to be there by 11 p.m. This means that I still have time to have a quick look around. Following the winding road, Chen Ge entered deep into the forest. After traveling for quite some time, he finally saw the legendary cursed house. The yard was surrounded by a tall gray wall, and there was only one exit. Even though the gate that opened on both sides was rusty with age, there was a brand new lock on it. Weird, the lock is so new, but the gate looks old. But wait, what's this? There was a piece of white paper stuck to the iron bars of the gate. Chen Ge assumed it was a flyer, but when he pointed his flashlight at it, he realized it was a missing persons notice. Zhang Qing, female, 27 years old, 157 centimeters tall, on the thin side. There is a beauty mark beneath her right eye. She likes to wear red clothes. If you have any information, please contact Mr. Wang. Monetary rewards will be provided. The notice came with this Mr. Wang's contact number and address. The thing that caught Chen Ge's attention was that the address listed on the notice was the address of this cursed apartment. This sure is weird. Chen Ge's ghost sense was tingling. He pulled out his phone to snap a picture of the notice before entering the compound. The place was bigger than he had expected. The main building had 3 floors, and there were 2 buildings that looked like a storeroom and a water pump room next to it. Ads by PubFuture. Based on the peeling of its paint, I believe this place is at least 20 to 30 years old already. However, the place was not as unkempt as one might have assumed it to be. The place was clean, there was no litter, and even the lawn was carefully mown. After he placed his bicycle in the lawn, Chen Ge walked into the main building with his backpack. Hello, is anyone there? The long corridor was shadowy. About 10 seconds later, the door closest to the stairs opened up a sliver. Good afternoon. Chen Ge walked toward the door, but the person behind it did not seem particularly hospitable since the door stopped after opening just a sliver. The lights in the room were not on, and Chen Ge could just about make out the shape of a woman behind the door. Her eyes were bloodshot, like she was fond of sleeping late. It made her look extremely tired. I wish to ask how much it will cost me to spend a night here, Chen Ge said in a tone that was as kind and soft as he could. However, to his bafflement, the only answer he got was a giggle, and the door slammed in his face. Before he understood what just happened, he heard footsteps coming from the second floor. The only voice-activated light that was installed at the corner of the corridor lit up, and a limping middle-aged man was coming down. He seemed to have overheard Chen Ge because the first thing he said was, "You want to stay at my place? How long do you plan to stay? You're the landlord." Chen Ge walked over. "I just wish to stay for one night." Just one night. The limping man gave Chen Ge a once-over like he was trying to read his mind. Fine, give me your ID, and the payment is made at the second floor. Chen Ge was about to follow the man upstairs when a loud sound came from outside. It sounded like someone had swung the iron gate open. Hearing this, the limping man frowned, and his features twisted with displeasure. He stopped moving, and Chen Ge had no choice but to wait as well. Not long after that, in walked another middle-aged man who looked awfully tired. He was wearing old, tattered clothes and was holding a stack of papers in his hand. "No-vel-b in .c ohm. Wang Qi, how many times I've told you, your girlfriend is not here in Terabang. If you insist on being this stubborn, I'll have to call the police." The limping man stood in the middle of the stairs to block the path. The other man ignored him and continued upstairs with his head lowered. "Hey, I'm talking to you." The limping man kicked, causing the unprepared middle-aged man to knock into the wall. The stack of papers slipped from his hands and fluttered all over the staircase. One of them happened to land beside Chen Ge's feet. "It's the same as the missing persons notice that I saw outside," Chen Ge thought to himself as he narrowed his eyes. He silently picked it up before continuing to follow the drama that was happening before him. The middle-aged man did not retaliate against the limping man's attack. He crawled up slowly from the ground and carried on to wordlessly pick up the notices that littered the ground. He reminded Chen Ge of a lumbering, lifeless zombie. Don't mind him, the man's crazy. The limping man waved at Chen Ge, ushering him to come upstairs. It seemed like he had given up on the middle-aged man. Crazy. When Chen Ge passed the middle-aged man, he surreptitiously glanced at him. The mission information did mention a psycho, so could this be him? Chapter 15. Landlord. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. Chen Ge's first impression of Wang Qi was weary, torpid, and weak. As they brushed past each other, Chen Ge handed the other man back the notice he had picked up earlier, and Wang Qi thanked him with a wavering voice. This was the first time Chen Ge had heard the man speak. It sounded gravelly, which gave Chen Ge some trouble in understanding him. You're welcome, Chen Ge responded with a smile before he turned to follow the limping man up the stairs. The second floor was even more dilapidated than the first floor. The place was dark and humid, the corners were filled with unclean spider webs, and the walls looked like they had been slashed with knives. The limping man led Chen Ge to the very end of the long corridor. He opened the last room before coming out with a long chain of keys. One night is $50, take a pick of any room you like on this floor. $50? That's too expensive. My apartment is the only place to stay within several kilometers, you should be thankful I only charge you $50. When the man was talking, his eyes kept unconsciously moving to look behind him like he was checking out something. Fine, but why must I stay on the second floor? Is the room on first or third floor not available? Why do you have no many damn questions? They're off the limits, that's why. The limping man grabbed the 50 away from Chen Ge and shoved a random key in his hand. The room number is written on the key, go look for it yourself. Then, he rushed back into the room. The moment the door closed, Chen Ge could hear the muffled croak of an old man coming from inside the room, like the sound one would make when one had food stuck in one's throat. Frowning with suspicion, Chen Ge placed his palm on the door, saying, wait a minute. What now in Terabang? The limping man asked with annoyance. Chen Ge glanced through the slight opening of the door. The space within looked small. Other than the limping man that stood at the door, there was an old man reclining in a wheelchair that was facing away from the door. He was probably the source of the noise Chen Ge heard earlier. Ads by PubFuture. I'm rather thirsty, does your establishment provide a vending machine or things like that? No, man, is this how you treat your customer? The door slammed in his face, leaving Chen Ge in the corridor with a heavier suspicion brewing in his heart. For a normal apartment building, the reception is normally at the front door, but for this building, the reception is not only on the second floor but at the very end of the second floor corridor. Looking at the key in his hand, many questions appeared in his mind. Why are the first and third floors off limits? And who is the old man living with the landlord? The number 208 was written on the key, and coincidentally enough, the room was just next to the landlord's. Regardless, let me go put down my stuff first. After 2 hours of traveling, Chen Ge was indeed more than a bit tired. As he opened the door, the smell of mildew hit him in the nose. The room had probably been vacant for a long time because the place was covered with dust, and the bed was overgrown with some mysterious-looking fungus. It felt strange under Chen Ge's touch. Is this bed even usable? Before Chen Ge even placed his backpack down, he heard a loud crash coming from next door. It sounded like a plate had fallen and shattered. Chen Ge closed the door and stuck his ear to the wall, trying to eavesdrop. Soon enough, the sound of the limping man cursing came. In his anger, he let out several foreign curses, and based on his accent, the man sounded like he was not a local. The old man mumbled weakly in reply. The limping man continued scolding for several minutes before he stopped, but what happened next confused Chen Ge. The volume of the television was increased. What's going on? What is he doing? Why did he increase the television's volume? Chen Ge tried to listen for more clues, but all he could hear was the television. He soon gave up. So be it. In any case, I should be more worried about myself. I doubt I'll be able to get any sleep tonight. Ads by PubFuture. Chen Ge placed his backpack on the table and took out the penknife, placing it in his pocket. The online complaint mentioned the existence of blood stains behind the paint and the presence of a horrible smell at night. However, I've searched all the information available on Ping'an Apartments online, and there was no mention of any murders that happened here. Then again, there had to be some kind of secret hidden at Ping'an Apartments for it to have been selected as the mission venue by the black phone. He pulled out the multi-purpose hammer to knock and inspect every corner of the room. He came up with nothing. This was a very normal guest room. Other than the sorry state it was in, there was nothing out of ordinary about it. Since the landlord only allowed me to pick a room on the second floor, this means that the rooms on the second floor are mostly fine, or else he wouldn't have opened it up for rent. Therefore, to get to the bottom of this, I have to go take a look on the first or third floor. The trial mission was supposed to start at 11 p.m. There were still 3 hours until then. Chen Ge did not want to waste time. He put the hammer away and slunk toward the door. With his hand on the doorknob, he pushed it open. However, he stopped halfway. His palms started to sweat, and a chill ran down his spine. The limping man was standing just outside his door, God only knew how long for. The man also did not expect that Chen Ge would suddenly open the door. Both parties on either side of the door were equally shocked. "Landlord, why are you standing at my door?" Chen Ge narrowed his eyes at the man. The more time he spent with the limping man, the uneasier he felt. "Didn't you say you were thirsty? I came to give you this." The limping man placed the warm water bottle in his hands by Chen Ge's door, and his expression was as unnatural as it could be. "Thank you." Chen Ge did not point out how weird he was acting and pulled the bottle into the room. "Is there anything else?" "No, that's all. Do rest early." The limping man glanced inside the room and added as if to himself, "The corridors are not fitted with lights, so they're very dark at night. You'd better stay in your room after the sun sets." He turned to leave. Chen Ge sighed in relief when the door next to him closed. This landlord is easily angered and socially inept. Even though he has a limp, that doesn't mean that he's physically weak. He managed to shove the man earlier to the ground with just one kick. If anything, he should be quite powerful. Chen Ge wasn't a particularly good sleuth. The only thing he could do was try to fit the situation at the apartments into the plot of all the past murder mysteries he had seen. Born with a disability might have caused him to be bullied from a young age, and that corrupted his innocence. That could easily evolve into a mental sickness. FCK, it sounds like he's the perfect candidate for a crazed murderer. Chen Ge put the bottle away, and a pressing question came into his mind. If the landlord is the murderer, then doesn't this mean I'm going to have to spend the whole night next to a murderer? No, vel, b, in c, ohm. This thought made Chen Ge's skin crawl. Who knew? The man might spend the whole night standing outside his door, waiting to entrap him. To make matters worse, since he was the landlord, he had access to the space keys, which enable him to enter any room as he wished. Chapter 16. Don't spend your night here. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. I shouldn't get ahead of myself. The landlord is suspicious, but that doesn't mean he's really the murderer. Chen Ge scratched his head and said to himself, perhaps I should talk to some of the tenants for more details. Since Chen Ge arrived at the apartment, he had seen 4 different individuals: the woman hiding behind the door, Wang Qi, the person who pasted those missing person notices all over the place, the recalcitrant landlord, and the old man in the wheelchair. The old man stays with the landlord, so speaking to him is out of the question. The lady on the first floor weirds me out, so the only remaining candidate is Wang Qi. He should know some things about this apartment. Chen Ge placed the bottle in the room, locked the door behind him and went downstairs. The voice-activated light came on, giving Chen Ge enough light to see Wang Qi hugging the stack of notices, walking down the corridor. He slipped a notice under each door, regardless of whether they were occupied or not. This naturally attracted Chen Ge's attention. Normally, missing person notices were posted at places with high traffic, but this man personally focused on these apartments, which seemed quite deserted. Chen Ge followed behind Wang Qi quietly. It was not until Wang Qi finished slipping the last notice under the door that he said, "Brother, I can understand your feeling of having a loved one vanish, but you should stay strong and not do this kind of meaningless action to torture yourself." Ads by PubFuture. Wang Qi slowly turned around up hearing Chen Ge's voice. His clouded pupils seemed unable to find a point to focus on. "Understand? None of you will ever understand how I feel, nor have I asked for your understanding." Chen Ge did not waste time going down this rabbit hole with him. He grabbed his phone and searched for the police report he made when his parents disappeared several months ago. "I'm not lying to you. My parents suddenly disappeared half a year ago, and at the beginning, I was feeling down in the dumps, too." Looking at the picture saved in the phone, Wang Qi was silent for a long time before he said, "I empathize with your situation, but our circumstances are different. My fiancée will return. I can feel that she hasn't gone far. Do you mind telling me your story? Considering we're somewhat in the same boat, perhaps I can help you," Chen Ge said. Weirdly enough, he found himself meaning what he said. Wang Qi hesitated, perhaps recalling that Chen Ge had helped him pick up his notice earlier. His gaze that fell on Chen Ge softened. Thank you, but you won't be able to help me. You're a nice young man, so listen to my advice, run away while you still can. Don't try to spend a night here. No vel b in c ohm. I've already paid. You'll have to give me a more convincing reason if you want me to pack up and leave. Chen Ge's purpose there was to complete the trial mission. If he surrendered, he would lose the opportunity to unlock the murder by midnight scenario forever. Is your life more important or your money? Wang Qi looked about them, and after making sure there was no peeping eyes, he lowered his voice to say, everyone here knows there have been murders in this building before. I've heard a thing or two about that, but I failed to find any information on it on the internet. I suspect that's merely a rumor, Chen Ge replied. Previously, this building was called Fuan Apartments. It was after the incident that the name changed to Ping'an Apartments. The murders were big news at the time, and until now, they haven't been solved. The will of the dead hasn't been appeased, so they appear at their place of death every day at midnight, Wang Qi said. It sounded like he really believed it. You still believe ghost stories like that at an age like ours? Chen Ge smiled awkwardly. Internally, he was incredibly nervous because he knew better than anyone how real the other world was. If possible, he really did not want to have any more encounters with these spirits. Initially, I did not believe it either, that is until the day my fiancé disappeared around this area. Wang Qi pulled on his hair out of frustration, his fatigue plain as day. Ads by PubFuture. Why would your fiancé come to a place like this in the first place? Chen Ge was intrigued. The thing that happened to this Wang Qi's fiancé was curiously similar to what happened to his parents. To be honest, I don't really know. In fact, I had not even heard of this apartment before her disappearance. I got the place's name from the police. They told me it was at this place that all clues were lost. Wang Qi's hands relaxed, and several strands of hair hung listlessly between his fingers. I've run out of ideas, and that's why I moved in here. Then, have you discovered anything? Wang Qi's lips fell open, but before he could say anything, he suddenly stopped himself. Instead, he reached into his pocket to pull out his phone to type something on it. My fiancé has been kidnapped by the people who live here. Chen Ge was dumbfounded reading the typed message. He had not expected this development. Brother, a kidnapping and a disappearance are two very different things. Wang Qi shushed Chen Ge, telling him to be quiet. He turned his back toward the corridor and flipped his phone over to show Chen Ge. Chen Ge saw the messages in the phone inbox, and his eyes slowly widened with shock. There was a message from Wang Qi's fiancé in his phone. The content was simple, it only had 2 words, save me. However, the most spine-chilling discovery was the message was sent at 2 a.m. last night. Someone who should have disappeared sent you a SOS message in the middle of the night. After the initial shock, Chen Ge quickly calmed down. Then, why didn't you go to the police with this message? Obviously, your fiancé is still alive. You might not believe me when I tell you this, but I receive this message from my fiancé every night after midnight. The content is always the same, but the key point is every time after I wake up, the message will have miraculously disappeared like it never really happened. Wang Qi pointed at his bloodshot eyes. To preserve this message, I haven't closed my eyes for 24 hours already. The message will disappear once you fall asleep. This was the first time Chen Ge had heard something as curious as that. I know you think I'm crazy, but everything I've said is the truth. Wang Qi leaned against the wall for support as he pocketed his phone. More inexplicable things have happened to me. For example, my fiancé's stuff curiously appears in my room without warning. It's like she's reminding me to go look for her. When Wang Qi said the last sentence, Chen Ge's eyelids twitched. Based on his experience from the past few days, Wang Qi's fiancé had not disappeared but befallen an accident and transformed into a ghost. She was haunting Wang Qi. That was the only logical explanation, provided the man had not been lying to him. My fiancé disappeared around this apartment building, and my life has been changed by this apartment building. Listen to me, this place is cursed. It's the home of many evil ghosts and specters. Misfortune befalls those who get too close, so leave when you still can. It seemed that Wang Qi had not uttered so many words at one go in a very long time, for his face was stark white as if the conversation had taken a great toll out on him. Chapter 17. Fuan Apartments. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. From a stranger's perspective, Wang Qi might have appeared to be too insistent in chasing the newcomer away. Therefore, Chen Ge did not promise the man anything. If anything, after listening to Wang Qi's story, he had a sneaking suspicion that the man was hiding something. I've told you everything I know, and there's still time to leave. When the clock strikes 12, the apartment will turn into something else. After saying that, Wang Qi brushed the dust away from his clothes and turned to leave. It was not until Wang Qi's shadow disappeared among the darkness of the night that Chen Ge came to. His original intention was to obtain more information from the tenants about the building, but now, he ended up with more question than answers. That man sure is a curious character, but I can't tell whether he's crazy or not. Recalling Wang Qi's pair of cloudy eyes that had not focused once throughout their conversation, Chen Ge felt uncomfortable. The pain and tiredness in the man's eyes could not be faked. But it does seem like he loves his fiancée dearly. As Chen Ge went back to his room, he paused when he passed the woman's room on the first floor. He hesitated before knocking on the room. Hey, fresh blood. The woman's room door remained unmoved, but to Chen Ge's surprise, the door to the room directly opposite from hers fell open. A lanky man was leaning against the open door. He looked to be in his 30s, and the man's appearance was very unkempt. His beard was almost joined to his hair, and the back of his hand had a tattoo of a peony. And you are? Chen Ge turned around with alarm. The man who was spreading the missing person notice around is not even a tenant of this building. There's something wrong about him up here. The thin man pointed at his temple. Don't believe a word out that comes out of his mouth, and try not to get too close to him. It was the first time Chen Ge had seen this man, and even though the man's appearance left much to be desired, the man's mannerisms were the most normal of all the characters he had met at the apartment. The man's actions sure are weird, but perhaps that is because he was too devastated from the loss of his fiancée. Ads by PubFuture. Did he tell you his fiancée disappeared around this apartment? Yes. Did he tell you he received that information from the police and that's why he has been searching for her here? NOVELBJN.C. Yes. The man chuckled mirthlessly before saying, I've lived here for 9 months already, and I've seen no trace of the police coming here. The madman is lying to you. I'm sure you don't believe his talk of ghosts, right? He pulled out a cigarette to dangle on his lips. There are no ghosts in this world. At most, it's someone pretending to be a ghost. In any case, it's getting late, so you'd better return to your room. Chen Ge thanked the man and turned to leave. As he wandered up the steps, he thought to himself, obviously, one of them is lying, but which is it? Lost in his thoughts, Chen Ge did not realize he had walked up to the 3rd floor. The fated number was printed on the corner of the wall, and the voice-activated light above his head flickered on and off. Chen Ge looked down the long corridor and realized this whole floor was in a state of complete disrepair. The floor was thick with grime, and there were signs of burning everywhere. The coating of the wall was peeling off like skin, and underneath it were lines that looked like thick cuts. Why have they left the 3rd floor unfixed? Not enough budget, or is there a more sinister reason? The voice-activated light soon went off, and Chen Ge was submerged in a world of darkness. Due to his work at the haunted house, Chen Ge was used to working in the darkness. The sudden blindness did not unhinge him. He pulled out his phone and was about to turn the flashlight on when he spotted a shadow dash past the darkened corridor. Who's there in Terabang? The flashlight on the phone lit up the 3rd floor, but the shadow was nowhere to be seen. Chen Ge was about to investigate further when he heard footsteps coming up from further down the stairs. It's the landlord. If he was spotted by the easily irked landlord loitering on 3rd floor, he might get chased off the premises. Chen Ge thought about it, pocketed his phone, and stealthily retreated down to the 2nd floor. When he turned the corner on the stairwell, Chen Ge saw a rotund and short man coming out of a room on the 2nd floor, holding a basin. The man was humming a happy tune, but when he saw Chen Ge, his face fell, and he immediately ran away from the scene. What is the meaning of that? Do I look that scary? After returning to his room, Chen Ge lay in bed, hugging his backpack. It feels like there's no normal individual in this apartment. Every single one of them could be the party responsible for the murders. Ads by PubFuture. When those words rolled off his tongue, Chen Ge suddenly sat up in bed. Wait a minute, the mission told me to find the party responsible for the murders, but the term, party, can be both singular and plural. In that case, could there be more than one murderer in Terabang? After all, if there is more than one murder, the chances of multiple murderers will drastically increase. I need to get more information on that case from years ago. Chen Ge pulled out his phone. His conversation with Wang Qi was not for nothing. He now had the important information that before it was called Ping'an Apartments, this place was called Fu'an Apartments. He keyed in Zhujiang Fu'an Apartments in the search box, and several pages later, numerous spine-chilling headlines jumped out at him. A family of 4 brutally murdered. The murderer has disappeared into thin air in Tarabang. Accident or homicide, the truth of the fire that razed Fu'an Apartments. Case within a case, bodies hidden inside the building unearthed. Reading through the information on Fu'an Apartments, Chen Ge felt his skin chilled. This was not fiction, they happened in real life, and he was currently living at the crime scene. 5 years ago, a neighbor saw the smog rising from Fu'an Apartments, so he called the fire brigade. The firefighters soon put out the fire and started to investigate the source of the fire as well as gauge the extent of damage. Initially, they thought this was going to be another accidental fire case, but as the investigation continued, more curious evidence started to surface. The cement walls were cracked, the surface of cracked window was small, and the smog blackened the ceiling. These were all signs that the temperature of the fire was high, and it spread very fast. There were several possible initial locations found at the building, and they were all far apart from each other, quintessential of an arson case. Therefore, the nature of the investigation changed. After the police stepped in, they soon discovered 4 burnt bodies among the ruin of the fire. They believed these were the bodies of the family of 4 who operated the rental apartment. This case created quite a buzz at the time. The police tried their best to solve the case, but the fire had destroyed most of the evidence. They combed the place but could not locate the evidence of a 5th person, much less catch the culprit. The apartment was sealed for a whole year, after which ownership of the estate was passed on to the owner's father, and it was then that Fu'an Apartments changed to Ping'an Apartments. The family of 4 was burned to the death, and the culprit still hasn't been caught. No wonder people say this place is haunted. After knowing more about the case, Chen Ge felt slightly more grounded because at least he knew what he was dealing with. A curious detail on the reports stuck out at him. The articles all confirm that at the time of passing, the owner was already 41 years old. The apartment was later passed on to his father, and theoretically and logically speaking, the real current owner of this place should be in his 60s or 70s already. Chapter 18. Livestream. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. There was only one person who fit the criteria, the old man sharing the room with the landlord. This is weird. According to the news articles, the owner should be an old man, but the landlord who received me is at most middle-aged. Chen Ge stood up to press his ear to the wall. The television on the other side of the wall was still blaring. Currently, it was playing some random commercial. Normally, wouldn't the viewer switch the channel during commercials? But they've been watching the commercials for several minutes already. Chen Ge tried to lean closer into the wall. Perhaps, I've missed something. He cleared his mind and tried to rearrange all the clues he had so far. After I entered the room, I heard the sound of a plate shattering next door. Then, the landlord started to curse and scold the old man. It continued until the volume of the television was raised. Since the old man was incapacitated, it had to be the landlord who increased the television volume, but the question is, why? Chen Ge narrowed his eyes as a speculation appeared in his mind. Is the landlord ill-treating the old man? The television noise is to cover up the sound of assault. The more he thought about it, the more possible it sounded in his mind. The shattering plate occurred the moment I moved in. Isn't that too much of a coincidence? Could that have been an SOS signal from the old man? After all, it was merely a broken plate. There's no reason for the landlord to get so angered. Perhaps, he was afraid that the sound might have attracted my unwanted attention. But why should he be afraid? And why would the old man call for help? Ads by PubFuture. Suddenly, another detail that seemed unimportant to Chen Ge earlier entered in his mind. When the landlord was scolding the old man, he let slip several foreign curses. The family that passed away were all locals, but this landlord is not from Zhujiang. He shouldn't be blood related to the old man or his family. Normally speaking, the man wouldn't leave his assets to be taken care of by a stranger, unless the limping man has taken over this place and is holding the old man captive. If that's really the case, either he's a caretaker who got too greedy or he's the actual murderer. Either way, it did not bode well for Chen Ge. Chen Ge's fists tightened. That also explains why he was eavesdropping at my door earlier. He wanted to find out how much I've learned. C Ohm. Chen Ge's forehead was sweaty from all the thinking. After all, he wasn't a real detective. All he had were references to plots that he had seen on television before. What should I do now? Rush directly into the room next door to whack the landlord until he faints? No, that's too rash. If my speculation is wrong, that'll land me in hot water. With the mallet in his hand and the penknife stuck in his pocket, Chen Ge paced around the room. Give the landlord a test to confirm his identity. No, that's too risky. What if I tip my hand too soon? After all, he might have other accomplices, and I'm here all alone. If I'm targeted, my life will be in danger. Furthermore, I don't really have any real proof, everything is just speculation. Also, I'm pretty sure the main purpose I'm here is to find the murderer from 4 years ago, so maybe I should focus on that instead. Chen Ge was caught in a conundrum. Suddenly, the television next door was switched off, and the place became eerily quiet. What's going on? He opened the door slightly and lowered himself to the ground. He peeked out at the door next to him. There was no light coming out from underneath the door. Sleeping at 8 p.m., Chen Ge crawled to the landlord's room door holding the mallet. In an out-of-body moment, he realized how suspicious he must have looked then. He turned around to make sure no one was watching him before pocketing the mallet and crawling back to his room. Then again, my speculation might not be 100% accurate, if only I had a professional to help me with the analysis. Ads by PubFuture. Chen Ge lay in bed and pulled out his phone. In his contact list, other than Xu Wan, he had not spoken to many of the others before. Jesus Christ, I sure am loyal. Chen Ge thought about it. Among the people that he knew, the only person who was slightly related to investigation was the young man who had fainted inside his haunted house, Seinen. In any case, a medical student should be better at logic and analysis than I am. He entered the video sharing app and realized he had about 20 private messages. He clicked open a random one and saw it was a personal message from a studio that was based on the website. The person expressed interest in having him join the team. Is this person some kind of talent scout? Chen Ge did not have time to deal with that right then. He scrolled through the many messages to look for Seinen's ID and tossed the invitation out of his mind. However, several minutes later, the studio sent him another message. You there, we've seen your video, it has plenty of potential. We were wondering if you would like to cooperate with us. We can contact the top streamers of our platform on your behalf to help increase your popularity and exposure. Doing this alone is going to be very difficult. After all, most streamers on the net rely on teams and networking. This is a very good offer, so do consider it. You there. The endless pop-ups annoyed Chen Ge. He was busy trying to survive a night in the apartment that housed a murderer who had killed 4 individuals in cold blood 4 years ago, and these people were busy trying to sell him their service in Terabang. He finally replied, AFK. Young man, you sure are funny. Give our studio serious consideration. You don't need to do anything beyond adding our studio's logo to your videos. In return, we will provide you with better exposure to help you gain viewership. I'm sorry, but I'm currently not interested in something like that. Chen Ge felt his reply was polite already. If this was someone else, they probably would have cursed the person out before blacklisting the studio. Your short video has the possibility to go viral, but you have to understand that it is just a possibility. A platform like this has an average of 1 million uploads each day, and you're just one of the more lucky ones. Nowadays, people are in for fast food entertainment, they don't have the patience to wait. Every moment, there are fresh and more exciting things to pull their attention away. If you don't carefully manage your business, your video will soon be submerged by a sea of fresh attractions. Talk about it later, I'm currently busy with something important. Chen Ge finally found Seinen's ID. What is more important than earning money? If you are still hesitating, perhaps we can have some other form of cooperation. For example, we're more than willing to offer good money to buy your content and video shooting technique. Chen Ge was irked, so he blacklisted the individual and messaged Seinen. To his surprise, Seinen replied within a few seconds. Boss, I've been waiting for you to release a new video. Wait a minute, I have a more important question to ask you. After getting Seinen's phone number, he called the young man and explained the whole situation to him in a whispered tone. Chapter 19. Rising Popularity. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor, Millman 97. Afraid that the landlord next door might overhear him, Chen Ge lowered his voice to a whisper, which created an unintended tense atmosphere. After he was done, on the other end of the phone, Seinen was stunned. This honest young man who just came to the city from the countryside to attend medical school did not expect his first conversation with an online friend to be so freaking exciting. You're currently at that cursed apartment? Yes. And the landlord next door might be the killer from several years ago. Yes, wait a minute, this is too much for me to process at once, let me think about it first. This created an interesting contrast between the situations on both sides of the phone. One was wrapped in his warm blanket, chewing on KFC, watching some online videos, while the other was caught in a haunted apartment, heavy with gloom and anguish. Ads by PubFuture. Boss, I still think you should report this to the police. Granted, you don't have any actual proof, but compared to the offense of making a fake report, your life is more important. Seinen was merely looking out for him, but Chen Ge had his own consideration. This murder by midnight was a mission given to him by the black phone. He had to stay there overnight for the mission to be a success. Interference from the police would most likely ruin his mission. Since it involved the unlocking of a new scenario, surrendering just like that felt like a great waste. It's still not yet time to involve the police. Mainly, it's your safety that you should be concerned about. Boss, how about this? Seinen paused before adding, turn on your phone's GPS triangulation and try to keep your phone on throughout the night. I'll pay attention to the sounds from your side, and if there's anything weird, I'll call the police immediately. That was not a bad idea. Chen Ge looked at his phone. He still had not exited the video sharing app, and there was an advertisement for a mukbang stream going on. Suddenly an idea came into Chen Ge's mind. Why don't I open a livestream at the haunted apartment? If anything dangerous happens to me, the viewers will be able to help me alert the police, and the recording of the livestream will be the best evidence. Of course, I hope for everything to go well, and with this method, I'll be able to attract more viewers to my page and thus advertise my haunted house. The short video from last night had brought Chen Ge about 1,000 new followers, and consequently the number of visitors at his haunted house the next day had doubled. This was a workable method. Furthermore, the ultimate goal of him entering the haunted apartment was to earn the mission reward to improve his haunted house. If starting a livestream was able to ensure his safety while he was conducting his mission as well as increase his popularity and viewership, then why not? Even though I don't have the budget to advertise my stuff all over the place, I can rely on livestreams and short videos to attract people's attention. What Chen Ge was lacking in were platform, channels, and experience. In terms of content, he was not at all worried. Even though the personnel from the studio earlier was annoying, they were right. Modern entertainment was about instant gratification. What could be more exciting and intense than an overnight stay at a haunted apartment and a possible tussle with a crazed murderer? Viewership followed content, and compared to other streamers, Chen Ge had a unique leg up. All of his content and the stuff that he experienced was all real, there was no plot or script, and even he had no idea what might happen next. In a way, the livestream was merely a recording of him completing the mission dispensed by the black phone. Seinen, I'm ending the call. Come directly to my livestream, the stream's ID will be similar to the ID on my personal page. After hanging up, Chen Ge turned on his phone's triangulation system and said 991 as his quick dial. After everything was done, he selected the livestream option on the video sharing app. Videos nowadays were normally only several 10 seconds long, meaning they were hard to monetize. Therefore, to improve fan loyalty and more directly monetize follower numbers, most streams would livestream when they were not preparing to release a new video. Since short videos were easily shared, they could be used to attract the attention of random viewers. Then, with live streams, those viewers could be turned into followers if the streamer's content was interesting enough. Incidentally, Chen Ge had stumbled across the most correct way of establishing one's online brand. Overnight at a haunted house. Your host, an intrepid explorer, exposing the parts of the world that are normally hidden from sight. Chen Ge used several exclamation marks in his title to separate his livestream from others. Ads by PubFuture. To be honest though, he need not have done that. The livestream function attached to the video sharing app was ultimately different from a streaming website. The categorization was limited and mostly involved talking to scantily dressed girls. Chen Ge's livestream was like a pile of cow dung amid a bed of roses. It was incredibly hard for him to not get noticed. After opening the livestream, his fans that followed him would be notified, and similarly, there would be an announcement at his profile page. In less than few seconds, the first batch of viewers arrived. Seinen was the first to message. Boss, you're serious, you're really going to livestream this? Death to all men posted, you're the creep who uploaded that video yesterday night. Good, because I'm here to claim your life. FCK, sis, what happened to you? Calm down, maybe we can talk this out. Creep host, subbed, posted I'm a little green worm. Any subs know what the content of this stream is? Do you not know how to read? The title is right there. The moment Chen Ge began the live stream, those who were waiting for his video showed themselves, and the viewership of his room slowly climbed. Guys, I think there's a misunderstanding. Chen Ge put his mallet away and turned to the camera seriously. The video from last night wasn't a joke, I experienced it myself. You can go look for the full video on supernatural forums if you do not believe me. The footage has not been tempered, the thing in the mirror is real. I know that is hard to believe, but if you follow me, I'll unveil the hidden side of this world to you little by little. Hello, 001, I'm sorry, but what is the number for mental hospital? I believe I've found a runaway patient. November LBJNN. I do love the way you bullshit. Li Ming, I know you're watching livestream, go buy some supper for me. Fried noodles, no chili, thanks. Fusan Mental Hospital Room 31, subbing to the host. In support of our friend finding a new job. Several notices appeared on screen, and all of them showed disbelief at Chen Ge's promise. The man wasn't fazed. I don't mind if you think I'm crazy because you'll soon see how wrong you all are. The viewership continued to climb. Chen Ge turned to look at the night sky that was darkening. He lit a cigarette and started explaining the bloody history of Fuan apartments to his viewers. Chapter 20. Crime Scene. Translator. Lonely Tree Editor. Millman 97. A mysterious fire, a disappeared killer. Chen Ge realized he had a talent for storytelling. He managed to summarize the many news articles he had read and combined them with his own hypotheses, creating a believable and intriguing tale for his viewers. That is what has happened. To search for inspiration for my haunted house, I decided to stay overnight at this cursed apartment, but I came across a startling discovery. Every single tenant of this apartment has something off about them, and I suspect that the murderer from years ago is masquerading as one of them. Chen Ge snuffed his cigarette off and turned to address the camera. Interesting, so a real-life murder mystery. Anyone have a brilliant idea as to who the real killer is? I'm a little green worm mocked. Host, you sure know how to bullshit, but we're not that gullible. Zhujiang City's Fuan apartments, I just looked it up on the internet, the host doesn't seem like he's lying. He-san showed some support. I believe the host. However, I'm a little green worm was not easily convinced. Even if the host isn't lying about the case, how do we know that he is currently at the cursed apartment? As he said earlier, the place was burned down. But take a good look at the room he's room. The wall is clean and painted, and all the furniture looks usable albeit a little bit old. Does this look like a cursed apartment to any of you? I won't lie to you guys about that. You want proof? Easy. Chen Ge moved the makeup counter away and pulled his penknife. He scratched away a small corner of the paint on the wall. The name of a building can be changed, and the place can be refurnished and repainted, but certain things cannot be removed or hidden. He removed the freshest layer of wall paint to reveal the brickwork underneath, which was charred black. This is evidence that this place was the crime scene of the fire. No, I'm interested in why you would bring a mallet and a knife to stay at a hostel, for self-defense. Death to all man raised an obvious concern. Ads by PubFuture. Host is ruining the wall for no reason. 1 minute of silence for the poor landlord. How much did you pay for a room like this? It doesn't even have a television. Looking at the chat log, Chen Ge could not help but sigh. Guys, can you not focus on the irrelevant points? How about some respect? I'm putting my life on the line to do this livestream for you. Death to all man donated $1. $1 donation is sign of respect. Chen Ge was helpless dealing with the online trolls, but at least they didn't leave him. Fine, let's get back to business. I've met 6 different individuals since I arrived at this apartment. The first person I met was a woman who might have a little mental problem. When I arrived, she smiled wickedly at me unprompted. This unhinged me slightly, but since I have had no further interaction with this woman, there's nothing else I can say. Chen Ge introduced all of the tenants to his viewers, and when he was done, he added his own analysis. In terms of motive, the landlord is definitely the most suspicious, but his movement speed is hindered due to his limp. So, viewed from this perspective, the tattoo guy on first floor and the fat man on second floor have the greatest possibility of being the killer. Of course, one can't ignore the woman and the seemingly weak Wang Qi. Basically, you've come up with nothing, death to all man surmised. Based on your analysis, I've further suspicion that the real killer is the old man in the wheelchair. After all, he stood to gain the most from the fire. That might not be that implausible. After all, the old man might be incapacitated now, but that doesn't mean that he was the same 4 years ago. Furthermore, The crime we're talking about is a fire that doesn't require physical prowess, so the old man is a valid suspect. Also, have you considered the possibility of the old man faking his disability? Oftentimes, the most unlikely one is the killer. Actually, I have more suspicion toward the woman on the first floor. She smiled at the host, meaning she wanted to communicate something to the host. Host, can you still remember the curve of the woman's lips and the degree to which her mouth was open when she smiled at you? I'll help you analyze it from the perspective of psychology. I can't. As the interest of the viewers rose, so did the popularity of his livestream. Chen Ge looked at the busy chat log and sighed internally. He thought to himself, these people are hopeless. Looks like I'll have to go out to look for more clues before I can come to any conclusion. He placed his phone before him, adding, I did try to look around the building before starting the livestream. I discovered while most of the apartment's first and second floor has been fixed up, parts of the third floor have been left as they were 4 years ago. In a little bit, I will go up to conduct a closer examination. Hopefully, we'll be able to come up with some useful clues. The place is kept like it was 4 years ago. That's kinda sick. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. The ghosts of the families have been lingering because the case hasn't been solved. Investigating a haunted apartment at night. The host sure is insane. Ads by PubFuture. Of course, the host is the operator of a haunted house after all. Let me tell you, last time a bunch of us visited his haunted house to demand reparation for his scary video, but we got our backsides handed to us instead. 2 of the bravest among our group went in, one came out crying inconsolably, and the other fainted on the spot. Wait, what happened to them? And what about those who are not as brave? Have you lost your mind? Do you think the rest of us entered his haunted house after we saw what happened? You're right, lol, commented He-san. The chat had completely derailed, but Chen Ge didn't mind it that much. He pocketed his penknife, and with one hand holding the phone, the other holding the mallet, he walked to his room door. Learning from his previous lesson, Chen Ge squatted down to look at the shadows underneath the door and confirmed that there was no one standing on the other side, before lightly pushing the door open. After he closed and locked the door, Chen Ge yanked one of his hairs out to stick it into the keyhole. This way, if someone entered his room when he was not there, he would know because the hair would have been pushed further into the keyhole. After everything was prepared, Chen Ge walked to the stairwell. His steps were light to not activate the light on his phone guiding his every step. As he climbed up the stairs, the walls on each side became noticeably darker in color, and there was an indescribable smell in the air. When he reached the 3rd floor, Chen Ge turned on the flashlight function on his phone. He leaned against the wall and focused. When he first accidentally walked up to the 3rd floor, he had noticed a dark shadow flash before him. The shape of the shadow had looked like a human. Be it a ghost or a man, I have to be careful. The flashlight revealed to Chen Ge the crime scene from 4 years ago. Looking at the scratch marks that seemed to embed themselves into the wall, Chen Ge's grip around the mallet tightened. Ping An Apartments had a unique architectural style. It only had one staircase, and it was on the right side of the building, giving the impression that the corridor leading to the left side was suspiciously long. As he walked down the corridor, he felt a chilliness tingle his spine. Even with his back to the wall, Chen Ge felt weirdly exposed. If the starting point of the fire was the 3rd floor, then all this wouldn't have been preserved, so the killer probably didn't come up to the 3rd floor at the time. Chen Ge continued down the darkened corridor. The doors on his either side had been warped by fire, exposing singed and ruined rooms. Navigating the trash that littered the floor, Chen Ge scurried into the closest room that he could get into.